now that it is painted, I can finally get to putting it back together. I'll probably start kind of system by system or work from the top down. I do have spark plugs, valve cover gasket, cooling system. I have all the accessories to put back on. All new gaskets for the intake manifold, PCV setup, so get that stuff on then. Well, with the spark plugs removed, I believe that should be the last part that I actually have to take off of the engine. Now it should be pretty much just assembly. Might swap the crank sensor because I painted the one that's on there, but if it's good, I might just let it fly. But yeah, I'm gonna get to installing new plugs, valve cover gasket and valve cover, and then start buttoning up this top end of the engine. Well, that is the valve cover spark plugs wrapped up. Everything's done, back in place. I even torqued the valve cover to spec because I've had experience with those leaking in the past. But now I'm going to move on to the oil filter housing and kind of get the engine sealed up the rest of the way and then move on to the cooling system. The oil filter housing is another part that I actually cleaned up with my parts cleaner a couple weeks ago, so it's pretty much ready to go on. Pull the tape off I have on here from just having this blocked off from painting the block. Pull the hardware out, wipe down the housing, put the new gasket on, and again, I gotta look up the torque specs for these, but then this will button this up and kind of fish the rest of the lines and do those. So I ended up torquing the oil filter housing to 22 foot-pounds. I read a few different things. Some people said 18. My wrench starts at like 10, so I went 22 just so it felt like it registered a little more. But I've seen that listed as well, 18, 22, so did that. And with this oil filter housing, it actually has like threaded inserts on the back. I believe these are threaded anyway. On early model E36s, mainly on M50s, they're like, there's a clip that holds a plug in. On those, I typically pop them out, clean them really well, pop it back in, and then I use epoxy and go over, basically epoxy the plug in place. I think these are for oil cooler lines, but in this instance, I don't have to do anything because they're threaded, so it should be all set. But I'm gonna get to knocking out more of the lines on the top here, probably throw the oil filter in, and pretty much get the oil side of things finished up. Well, I ended up getting the cooling system all knocked out, water pump, thermostat, everything's on. Also did the rest of the accessory drive as well. So the crank pulley and everything's on, power steering pump, I put it back together after cleaning it. That's on, alternator, new belt. Pretty much wraps up the front side of the engine. There's no sensors up here, so need to do the exhaust, and like I said, I have to modify that coolant pipe, and then wiring harness, intake manifold. We'll have to pull some parts off the other M52 in the back. That has better manifolds. Manifolds off this have RTV smeared all over them, and I think they have some broken studs, which is kind of odd for an M52. But pull them off that engine, maybe paint them, maybe just clean them up. I have new exhaust gaskets. I'll modify that coolant flange and pipe, and then start swapping the harness over, whichever one I decide to go with. But it's a wrap for tonight in this video. It's late, I need some sleep, and I'll probably get back to this tomorrow. So thanks for watching.